For me, this rooted panel, this roundtable, is extremely relevant and of paramount importance. I always speak the truth. I'm not politically correct. I speak the truth. I'm fucking bored of hearing you crying because you're broke. You don't have money for your projects. I'm sad. I'm overwhelmed. Instead of going for getting fundings for your project, nobody pay attention for your projects. My goodness, so much talent, so super fucking good ideas in our country that can end up being companies and entrepreneurial business projects. Open source does not imply being a beggar asking for food. No, 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 no. We are powerful panelists. I'm going to introduce you to the moderator who works with myself, Ferrovial, Manuel Martinez, which is the open innovation person responsible there, the person in charge for open entrepreneurial and innovation on my behalf. Oh, my fellow colleague in Ferrovial. For those looking for, we hire intelligence where it's positioned outside my organization in order to sort out the challenges and the deficiencies of the company. That's what I did for this panel, as like I said, of entrepreneurship in cybersecurity. Oh, so much talent for me to explain this defiance to you. Rocio Pilado, which is the principal in Adventures Rick's Fund, specialized in cybersecurity. She's IT engineer. She has been working so long on the investment bank in Société Générale. She manages the investments and the portfolio of our company. One of the things she told me, she founded an MBA club, which was the forum for those interested in studying MBA and dealing with innovations, questions. We hope this would be a cybersecurity entrepreneurial club having a better and more accurate position about this subject matter. On my left, Andres Tarasco, very well known by everybody here, co-founder and CEO for CarLogic, and with his life is rich of content. He is the mafia in Sia. Maybe you share the same. Oh, good, talented past there. Uh, you said to me, I think engineer by the Lacquer University, the blame on Fernando, the guy on the right. You got a clear indicator of being a successful entrepreneurial person. Neither Bill Joff or Bing Harsons have their university degree finished. On the right, Carcel CISO in Banking Global Services since 2014. He's been a good cook before being a specialist chef. So Andreas didn't wrap up with his university degree. And so well traveled, Juan Antonio Lopez Boulet, on my right. Oh, he got such a long CV. VP Ascan Spain, Pro Security General Director, and counseling member of many important companies, member of the business school. And to make it short, he saw his very first company age 17 years old, this young. Why? Why? How can you do it? Let me start. Let me start my these questions. Please, you can take on the questions I'm gonna ask you freely and willingly. Rosie is first. How can how what is like to be an entrepreneur in cybersecurity is different is different from the retailing or retail profile. Thank you, Manuel. Thank you. An entrepreneur based upon cybersecurity has the distinguishing feature. I can sum up the main features and qualities later on, but basically, in cybersecurity, the quintessence is that one of the founders has to be the technological guru, the one knowing much more about cybersecurity, and having the vision and the overview of the product and the problems to be tackled. An entrepreneur who wants to do something in the retail sector for end customer, consumer, uh, that person that does not need to have the idea. Somebody will launch the idea for him. Uh, but we entrepreneurs in cybersecurity need to have a lot of previous knowledge and take the lead. These entrepreneurs usually are passionate about what they're doing. They like it. It's his life. It's their life. They have the capacity to take in the lead, to be leaders. Leadership is a must. You attract talent you feel comfortable working with. You team up with each other and you create a team. On the other side, this person has to have a lot of confidence on himself. You need to believe your own ideas. You need to put confidence and trustworthiness on you. The main clear feature for entrepreneurs is the perseverance. Looking into doing things, looking forward to doing new things, and being able to cope with new challenges and defenses. It's not a bed of roses for us. It's such a complicated road for us to continue. Nobody is ready to understand the cybersecurity entrepreneur profile. I do think, as you have properly said, that in the very end and in the beginning, uh, you want to start off your own company. You want to lead your own life, and through this this entrepreneurialism will lead you to an unknown scene. I do know that the moment I created and set up my new companies, at the very beginning, I had so much feared when because when you look at the fear in their eyes, you know what people I need, where you can collect money, you have the value to tackle the failure. Somebody's you win, and some other times you lost. As Roman said, when we talk about being entrepreneur and develop to the next step, we don't need to look money as excuse, because the excuse, if you make this excuse, is implicit. You will always be ready to find money, as she said. We need first have very clear idea what is going on. Secondly, we need to be capable of developing what we plan to do technologically, because it's a germ, it's an idea. And thirdly, we have to split it out properly. And there,
damos cuenta.
And sometimes we don't notice that we're telling a story to a public which is like us, who understands nothing. And we are expecting things from them, so we need to change the way we speak and change the way we explain things. Because if our idea is a good idea, it will have a market for it. The right momentum, the right courage, but above all, passion. Passion is something that you cannot leave aside. If you're not passionate about what you do, you will not find someone who wants to take you by the hand and follow the same track with you. And when someone comes and tells you a story, I look at them in the eyes, and I remind me of myself. I tried to sell a company at 16 years. When I was 16, I had inherited the company, and I couldn't understand why I had to sell it. So I told my mum, I don't really understand what I'm doing. And this gentleman signing to purchase my company, I didn't really understand what was going on. But this is life, and we need to have passion. And you have that technology side and that intellectual side, which are so powerful, but above all, you need to believe in yourselves. If we believe in ourselves, we will be conveying our own capacities to the reality around us. And don't be fearful, there's nothing wrong. As my grandmom used to say, you come here to cry, to life. So what can we lose? If we have nothing, there's nothing we can lose. Do we need to pay 40 visits? Well, let's pay 40 visits, because maybe it's visit 41 that will get us the money. And don't take for granted that money has to come from one source specifically. You must pay attention to everything. We are right at the gates, at the entrance to a new time, where crowdsourcing and crowdfunding will play a role. Let us get together to innovate. Let us think about those clusters for innovation, or those company incubators are there for something. I have a project myself. I changed the world by changing myself. How do I need to stop thinking, stop doing things, and expect that others will change reality for us? If I am capable of taking the first step, I will not care that much about what others have to say. I will have to defend those things I believe in. And when I do what I believe in, I will create the right conditions and achieve the goals. So these panels, these round tables may be boring and give you nothing. But let us talk from our heart, from passion. As Roman said, and quite rightly so, we need to go all out. When we go all out, there is no obligation to give any more. But we need to be aware of something. We mustn't keep anything aside when negotiating with a potential supplier, with a potential financer, a funder. I mean, would you haggle with your life project? And that's it. How was that process in your experience? The truth is, it's tough. But in order to be an entrepreneur in security, you need 3 basic skills. One is to have passion for what you do. Those of us in security share that passion, I believe. Commitment. With the complexity of this field, I think it is necessary that you keep investigating all the time, that you spend a long time trying to understand the systems you're dealing with. You need to be persistent and persevere. And finally, you need the idea. And the idea can be something extremely disruptive and innovative that can take us all the way to stardom, or it may just well be the willingness to do something in a different way, thinking out of the box. So seeing security in a different light. We wanted to enjoy ourselves, which is something we were not achieving in our last stage. So it was a combination of those 3 things that encouraged us to set up our company and fight for our project. It's tough, I have to say. The track you follow is full of ups and downs. You need to make sure that you're surrounded by the right people, people that can support you, because it's not an easy task. But it's really exciting, and it pays off when you see that things begin to work after some time. Our growth hasn't been as exponential as that you can see for other companies, other technology companies, but this month, after 4 years and something, there will be 20-something people in our team, so quite happy with it. Fernando, from your position, where do you see the opportunities so that we can focus on specific things? Those areas where you see a demand, a clear demand. Well, opportunities. In the field of security, well, you've seen the conferences, you saw the round table yesterday. I think there are endless possibilities. In the field of cybersecurity, it could be what Andres said. You could have a fantastic idea, or perhaps something that is being leveraged, but which you imagine in a different way. I was telling you the other day, I've been at Bank Inter for 1.5 years, and in 1.5 years, I've probably met 100 or 150 different companies. Some are multinationals, some are just groups of entrepreneurs who come and tell us about their project, their solutions, things that can be applied at the bank or elsewhere in a different field that I can tell you about in a minute. Where do I see the biggest challenges? well, we're moving towards a fully digital world. We are seeing our faces here. We can say hello, we can shake our hands, we can exchange our IDs, but in the digital world, that is not there. So anything to do with digital identity, how do I know who is behind any action, is something I experience every day in my work for the bank. So in general, any service we get, any sort of consumption of digital products and services needs to be accompanied by the certainty that we know who is behind the scenes. And we have an endless number of solutions, of course. From just credential management to biometrics. But with all the things I've seen in recent years, there's a long, long way to go ahead. And not just in terms of technology, I'm talking also about processes, the elements of the supply chain. Whoever becomes the big brother, whoever becomes the registry authority for everyone involved, things that Google and others are trying to achieve, well, they will get their way. On the other hand, another very interesting field, with the wealth of data, the wealth of services that we have around us, everything to do with behavior analysis, what is happening, what is normal, what is not normal, what anomalies we can see, so that we can help those companies that need to develop services, helping them to understand what is happening around them. So anything to do with behavior has a huge potential. Another field, and I'll stop there because there's many things we could talk about, but we see clearly the need for this, is anything to do with the efficient sharing of information. It is quite common, and that takes me back to what I do in the bank, you find yourself competing against a number of attackers that will attack not ourselves really, but our customers. So we deal with them in a on a one-to-one basis, but they're far better organized and they have larger budgets. Anything to do with sharing information about threats, about attacks, sharing that information between private and public institutions. There is a huge potential there as well for innovation and for improvement. Behavior, analytics, information exchange, important areas. But Rocío, when you set up a startup company, and we may get into the concept of startup, what it means, instead of being self-employed, not the same thing. But what is the geographical targets we're talking about? We're talking about Spain on the one hand, but is that what you see? Is that the background you have detected in these areas or in other areas? Where are you focusing? In order to focus on those areas, I would like to say first that in cybersecurity, even large companies don't know what they want. You're working on this on a daily basis, and you have lots of things, lots of elements and ideas and uses, and probably the best startups come from problems that companies have not even detected yet. Problems they have and they don't know about. And innovating in that field is really relevant. But then matching your idea with the potential market, with people willing to buy that, that's a different story. We see companies of many different sorts, but I think one of the main features of companies in the cybersecurity arena is that from day one, they're global. The problem encountered by Bankinter as a bank may be encountered by a bank in South Africa, by financial institutions in the US, because it's a global problem. And usually, when solutions are made available, they are made available in all continents at the same time. There are different approaches, but problems and solutions are global. I think if your mindset is global right from the beginning, if you bear in mind that the market has a huge potential with many customers out there with the same problems, That is an important thing to start with. You shouldn't focus only on your local market. Obviously, it's appealing to go for the local companies because most of them have problems that would justify targeting them. But I think you should go beyond your borders. You said something that we're used to hearing. Companies that are worth an investment, or invertible in Spanish, investable. Difficult to explain. I can explain this from the perspective of a hedge fund. There are many different levels. What an angel would see as an interesting and attractive company is very different from what Bank Inter would see. We in the hedge fund, for those of you who don't know, we have third parties contributing with their money. We put together the money from many people. We guarantee a return, a yield, by ensuring that the companies we invest in do really well. We need to invest on companies with a high level of risk, but those offering a big potential. How can we define potential? Well, that goes hand in hand with companies that sell in big markets, where they have big opportunities, companies that can grow fast. Cybersecurity is a huge market, as I understand it. It is very complicated to assume that a company in cybersecurity would have a small market as a target. But even so, we need to ensure that they're scalable. It's a very different story from a company that may be single product, if you like. There may be business plans out there that are really attractive in cybersecurity consultancy, but they wouldn't be that appealing for hedge funds unless those projects can be automated, unless they can package what they offer and replicate their solutions for a large amount of customers. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Andres, into our logic, in your shareholders, there's no hedge fund. No, it's two partners, Miguel and myself. Our initial capital was rather small, perhaps because we didn't really know how these hedge funds work. We never wanted to get anyone from the outside into the company. We didn't want anyone to have an impact on the initial idea we had for the business. That was essential for us at the beginning. Obviously, that is another difficulty because we don't have the financial backing. There's no one injecting capital, so your growth is much slower and you have to reinvest. But it is also true that our initial business model didn't make us a very attractive proposition because our business model was focused on delivering consultancy services. It is also true that after creating the company, we started working on a second business area. But we've decided to reinvest, go that way only. Well, you've seen this as part of your professional career, Juan. What are the stages that you have identified for funding companies that are starting to do business? Along the lines of what you said before, there is a difference between being self-employed and creating a company. Because self-employment is usually the consequence of not feeling comfortable in the organization you work for, but you don't really have a business model. You have your experience with self-employment. And they're two different stories, completely. It's you and your circumstances. I have an idea, I have to generate a narrative. Perhaps it's a technology, another product, and there is something we've gone through. So we go to market at a certain point in time, looking for a certain amount of capital to take a leap forward, and I'll tell you about the stages in a minute. And then they tell you, you basically have technology, you spend long hours on it, but you don't scale. You cannot scale. What do we mean when we say scaling? Well, multiplying whatever you have by 1,000 times, for example, at a very um, specific cost. If costs go up as you grow, then you're not scalable because there's no way to optimize it. There's no pockets deep enough for that. So what are the stages? As Rocío was saying, what does a venture capital group do in a certain segment? Andres was saying, we started because we didn't trust anyone from outside coming into the company. We didn't want to lose their portfolio. Someone comes along, puts the money, but money is not enough. It has to be money with someone that provides something else, and that's smart capital. From the very beginning, two people get together, they say to each other that they have a certain set of skills. They might hire someone and they decide that they need 40,000 euros. Conventional funds don't have the flexibility. So we need to go into those elements, like grassroots capital. Those friends, or even crowdfunding mechanisms, that will allow us to launch the first stage for our idea. I always recommend that before launching the idea, we should test it. We should test it to see if it works. Not just with one or two friends. They know us. And if we ask our dad, if we ask our mum, they will always say, of course, you will get far with this. We need critical views. Perhaps 30, 40, 50, 100 interviews to find out whether this would make sense. In Spain, we're very creative. I think there are opportunities for everyone. So we must differentiate between self-employment and entrepreneurship, different things. Once we go the entrepreneur's way, don't assume that we will need 2 million euros to do anything. We'll probably need 30, 40, 60,000. Or someone next to us that might say, I need a mentoring for this. So we need the space to collaborate with people so that we can complement those activities that you need to cater for, because a company has to cater for everything. So it's creating an ecosystem. There are ways to do this using different types of capital. And of course, you should prevent your company from being bought by someone else. Don't sell your soul, because it's your life. You need to work hard and use your models consistently. So the initial capital and then financing rounds, larger, more sophisticated, with different stakeholders that will have the opportunity to see that there is an opportunity for their money to give them the type of yield they may expect. But first of all, what do we want to do? What is pushing us? What makes us tick? Do we want to become businessmen? Or do we want to become self-employed people? That is at the basis of everything. Fernando, as part of that foundation, the Bankinter Foundation, a major reference on a worldwide scale, you do have a vehicle that you use for financing startups. Tell us about the vehicle on the Future Strength Forum, that think tank that you got, which ranks 26th worldwide, the number one in Spain. The Bankinter Foundation, which is a different entity, it's not part of the actual bank, but obviously we're very close. For those that want to start doing things, it is a very interesting reference. I would encourage you to pay us a visit. So there's different lines of action. We have the preliminary stage, before we do anything, before we make any move. We have resources there for people finishing the studies at university. This is called the Academia program with a K. And there are resources that people can use to find out what is needed. always around innovation. During the initial stages, I think this is a very interesting context because you have lots of resources that can clarify things. And then there's other things like Adara. We're actually collaborating with Adara for more consolidated companies. But then we also make an effort to preempt the future. Let me put it that way. The FTF, the think tank, meets twice a year, gathering 18 world-class experts to deal with something that will become a major subject for discussion. We've discussed things about big data, bitcoins, machine learning, and things like that. And last December, we focused only on cybersecurity. The advisory council is the body that is in charge of deciding the topics, and they decided to cover cybersecurity in December for a very simple reason. They see a big future for it. If you visit the website, you'll see the results. There will be a report published in May, and that would be phase one, really, stage one, to foster the right type of environment for entrepreneurs, in this case in cybersecurity. So one of the best think tanks in the world in innovation has decided to tackle this field. That says a lot. After that, we have a program called Entrepreneurs. During those initial stages that Juan was mentioning, it's not vaporware, by the way, okay? It's not PowerPoints we're talking about. Something a bit more solid, with a face, with eyes. Something that has been assessed already. With a total projection of less than 3 million in investments, well, that's the right type of environment for companies to start pushing. So we have resources at the beginning, and then the topics covered by the forum. And in the case of cybersecurity, there's lots of opportunities. Sorry, we've lost the sound. You may get in touch with the foundation or directly with me. We have experience in many of these fields, direct experience. In fact, we've been looking at different companies we would like to invest in. When we focus on cybersecurity companies, we give them our advice, we give them our feedback. We have a pilot project, we may have a pilot project in place to see if the technology is feasible, so that we can give them feedback which is based on actual information. So we do the necessary tests to find out whether that technology is feasible, and that is obviously a preliminary requirement for any decision involving investing. Let me raise a question regarding entrepreneurship in Spain. We are envious of other countries like Israel and the United States. What are the major differences with those countries, between those countries and Spain? What are the main benefits derived from the fact that we are in Europe, if there are any benefits because of that? I would like to open that debate. Well, benefits. In cybersecurity, there is a very clear benefit. This is an industry with such a huge demand that unemployment is non-existent. Differences with other countries? Well, perhaps the paperwork, the bureaucracy that you need to go through in Spain. Unlike other countries, entrepreneurs or technical guys like us don't have a solid enough financial culture of our own to do the necessary planning when we want to push for our project. And this is something that can become a dead weight at the beginning. Regarding the benefits of being in Europe, well, I think we have cases like Snowden and the information on espionage in the US. Setting up a company in cybersecurity and delivering services in cybersecurity from Europe is another element of trust, because you may have an independence that you wouldn't have in the US. I think we have a lot to gain because we are in Europe. and because of the industry we're in. The only difficulty, as I said before, the amount of paperwork, the amount of bureaucracy we need to go through. What I think is that cybersecurity is a huge opportunity. I've just come from Cybertech in Israel. My major concern, my biggest concern, was the business model for entrepreneurs, and their culture around innovation is amazing. The culture of innovation is not just a model that you translate into another country, you apply it there, and everything works right away. In Spain, we've been working hard so that government understands this, and changes have taken place. We talk about innovation, but people are a bit rigid about it. So it's a big open question. We have the rational side. People listen to us, they understand what we say, but then they do differently. They act irrationally. I think several things have been done because there was no other way. Europe is an environment that has not been paying enough attention to that. Deaf ears. And then, as one said about Snowden, our dependability on cybersecurity coming from outside Europe, it goes up to 90-something%, and we don't have enough manpower. We don't have enough people. I'm not saying that people are skilled enough, but we need more people involved to deliver those services. We have a shortage of qualified staff, and that has an impact on the overall effectiveness. We're lagging behind very clearly in Europe. As in other experiences, we have great individuals, but very little in terms of system. In the US, they focus on innovating, of course, but in cybersecurity, it's pure colonization. They say they're interested in Europe, so they go to Europe. You talk about whatever, where the data is stored, and that's just dialectics, not a real problem. But we buy more and more technology from them because they're here. We innovate a lot, but there's isolated individuals. Do we have potential? Of course. In the 2020 horizon, or for the 2020 horizon, funds have been made available, but Spain has been progressing very slowly. In France, in the UK, in Germany, in Italy, they have developed additional skills to colonize themselves, to go to other markets. Why are we good in Spain? Because the innovation model, our capacity to innovate, is extraordinary. Why do we have so much human capital leaving Spain? Because we're good. Why are we working for Dutch companies from here? Why do they look after ourselves more from abroad than from inside Spain? Well, that's something we need to tackle. And we need to change their model. This is not just changing government. Oh, by the way, we might have a new government now. Can we place our bets?
Is anybody here ready to deal with this situation? During this forum, we can see people who wants to be an entrepreneurial person. Who wants to be an entrepreneurial person but doesn't dare to raise his hand? Who would like to have an accompaniment, an accompanying person since from scratch in the very beginning? I have some ideas to bring up. This is it. This is what we need. This is the ecosystem we cater to. In this forum, I said to Roman, thank you, Roman, for having invited me to this forum, because rein yourself in embassies like the phoenix bird being reborn from the ashes. This creates a lingering esprit of permanency. Is what you have. I can picture it on your eyes. I have the eyes and the emotion, but I don't know who I should partner with. Do you think that in Spain, as of today, do we have the capacity to ruin ourselves, to being broke? Is bad opinion about it. I was taught too. May I stand up because I can't stand being sitting down any longer. We cannot speak with the audience. You cannot address your audience. You need to share and exchange. And when you need to share and exchange from the bottom of your heart, because if I'm talking from my mind, some smart ass will come over here to tell a different story. Andres, money. Money doesn't grow out from the trees. You will make a salary out of sweating a lot to reach innovation, to reach to them being an entrepreneurial person. There are so many obstacles and impediments that are related with our limited experience. You need to work on that. I have a friend of mine, Alex Rovira. You might be familiar with him, Alex Rovira. When we talk about the crisis, this is a good crisis because crisis implies change, but change is inside you. When you cope with the risks, when you tackle the risks and the failure, the very first sentence I said once, sometimes you win and some others you learn. Never ever you lose. And Andres' questions make sense in this regard um, when we are wearing these shoes, you can tell when when you ask somebody, do you get through this same experience, and this person didn't go through this experience, and mathematician or company's business teacher has never confronted real risks or situation, or security IT guy didn't confront an incident. Is well seen. There is a good reputation about no. And what can we do to change this model? Step forward, step up. Who cares about? How many of you are being considered as weirdos here? More than weirdos, the weirdest guy here, myself. This is braveness and bravery. Who cares about that? Let's step forward. Let's step out. I take on Andres' questions. Andres posed so many questions, but being so good in your company, so well installed in your company, why aren't you stepping forward? Because I'm stifling myself. I need oxygen. I need to breathe air. I need to live and lead my own life. More question. Who wants to live your life? Who wants to take the lead on their lives? My God, go for it. And precisely, we are on the right direction. We now open up the round of questions. Please make sure you get a microphone before posing the question.
Cántame.
You can please, Roman, tell. You need to be a brave guy. Absolutely. Oh, plunge into the swimming pool. Oh, where's money? There are some instruments coming from the public sector. Roman is a defier. He poses defiances. Would be able to help out his buddy, his colleague, in a really trustworthy, thinkable project. We can start by an environment. We can test the environment, and who do you think is better, is well known rather than the person who is by your side? Let's check out this formula. Money, which is at a different interest cost, cannot be a mortgage that can put a mortgage on your life. There are people at a certain moment in time who say to you, I'm going to help you. As Fernando said to us, foundations are thought of for them to be a social relationship instrument. As Roman, if I'm given a microphone, I can spend so many hours speaking into the microphone. Truly, I specialize in behavior and conduct mobilization in 1983, and social change. Propaganda and counter-propaganda is behavior and conduct modelization is enforced today. In 1983, El was considered to change work per capital. That was my very first company. You stepped forward into the future many times. Are you penalized? Are you punished severely for that? Yes. But the moment you take this opportunity and you to boost some confidence in the investors trust back on you. So there are some formulas where not only the traditional models, but the person into philanthropy or in the right tools will give the social, entrepreneurial, and companies responsibility. Some of them will wash their hands out of that. They wash up their awareness about that. But we need to work on that. We people, many people, would be delighted to share with you, to collaborate with you in this regard. Up there, please. Can we reach up there? Yes. Good afternoon. It seems to me this round table, to put it this way, the question would be as follows. I can see a smoke cellar, as Altquende would say, a smoke cellar, smoke cellars over here. My point is, some people sell, but if you want to sell, you need a product. And my understanding is that Logic with Andres Tarasco creates a product, and no fictional product here. Second question. Within this ecosystem of startups, big data, and so on, where there are so many smoke sellers, people feeding on this initial product. How can you tell Bank Inter and those investment funds the real creative companies in truth from those youngsters or manly people who are really reinvented the wheel? Oh, it comes in handy, this question. Oh, I will readdress these questions on to Rocio. You're talking about startups, please. Let's talk about this. Oh, this there's something running on cybersecurity. We, every company is different, but when an entrepreneur person comes to us, we check out many ideas. We have some opinions. We contrast and check out and consult with people from the cybersecurity sector. We consult with telecom companies, banks. What do you make of that person? Has this person had been working there? We check out the people's references. When somebody working on the cybersecurity sector with references and reputation within the sector, that's a good point. If we want some of our partners or Bank Inter or some other companies to tell us, okay, this is super innovative, we want a pilot with them, that's good enough for us to evaluate that person is able to move forward with all these tasks. Some unpresentable person can sneak in through. Somebody can sneak a stupid idea in our company, but our job is to validate with the market and our colleagues and to really attain achievable and innovative and useful things. How many companies have you been collaborating with? Please, sorry if I'm too interested with your business, but how can you check out the service level in cybersecurity? Those having a product, but those not having a product, but they have a prototype. They make a living out of being consulting area people. How many of you don't fit in the parameters I'm describing? Totally, we receive around 400, 500 business plans. Not only from cybersecurity, there is a high percentage, but not exaggerated. But Perhaps cybersecurity can cover 50 projects a year. Among them, some of them coming from companies giving services really started. uh, So they're viable, and we with this entrepreneur, we bet on him because he tells us about his vision, his outline, and this person may see that these projects are coping with the problem the same way, and he can create a real protected chain with the right technology to help this service be done finally and with fewer people, or a direct software that can easily sellable, even though you don't have a prototype. It's enough to tell us, okay, I can do it. I can sort out your problem by creating this. I need so many employees, and these are with a real plan, with a real clear plan and the real vision of the end object. This is not for us. It's difficult that a young company in cybersecurity comes to us with a final product. Otherwise, he won't. He will be selling the product. Can we take on more questions? Um, Before wrapping up, I can remember somebody raised their hands. In the meantime, just to the examples for Andres. We had Andres and myself had been known each other for the past 10 years. We from the band presented several tenders, and we in one of these tenders, Andres' company won the paper and won the tender. So a small company specialized in with the practical, easy going technical and solid reference this product. We stopped working together some years ago. So I asked other colleagues from other bands how it would be working with them. And this is a clear example of how a small, super specialized company with a different way of tackling things can compete with the big ones and win over them. Myself and my company has been receiving some very novelty idea, and nobody had it, so we stepped forward and we'll put it in place later on. They came to us. We have it in prototype mode. Oh, we're interested in it. We said back to them, let's try to test it. Let's try it. Who decides on the final movement? People from our department who can test that this is viable and feasible and makes sense, and they are going to support this decision. They're going to support the investment decision in that company. This company has not yet any customer or client. If this prototype works properly, we'll bet on them, we'll invest on them, and rather than doing good things with a consolidated Israeli U.S. good product company. But in Spain we have two small companies promoting very good startups which are very successful. Thank you, Fernando. A question at the back. Can you hear me? Yes.
Yo creo que lo más importante.
The most relevant thing is not what you said. The most important thing is to have clients, customers. I do think that industrial tissue, the small and medium Spain's companies are really knackered. Spain is not thought of to be an entrepreneur person. You only have one shoot. If you go broke, you collapse. You're dead. I set up two companies. I went through bankruptcy, and I know what you're saying. The system in Spain, the Spain's lawyer protect creditors when your company collapses. You were about to collapse the company. In the very end, everyone can tell their own story, their own experience. I understand your story. I understand your experience because in the very end, this triggers a reality which is unbeatable. I went broke twice. I put my company in trouble. and Spain's legislation thus is not thought of to give the second opportunity, a second life to a broken company is a real thing, which is true. How many times do you started back again from nothing? The fourth time, the next time is what matters. If I collapses 3 times, I will get up 4 times. That's resilience, man. That's resilience, man. I'm not convinced by your words because after going outside, being laid off, so many people have tried to deceive me, put briberies on me. This country is full of gypsy people, robbers, and my signature has been falsified. They have opened an account. The money from a transfer has been put in a fake bank account. That's a reality in Spain. This is what's happening in Spain. What you are going to tackle if you go outside to set up a real company. That's reality. You like it or not. So many people trying to sell you an idea which is not true, which is a fake, which is a bluff. This is fucking me off. You're talking about the robbers and thieves. The very first decision when we set up our company was not to work with the public administration because we because we want to make sure to be paid properly in due time and to be able to subsist. So we bet on logic company as we are not going to have nothing with the public administration sector because if we fail, if you want to get up, it's a merit. Get it from nothing if you collaborate with the public administration is impossible. So every company's project and business project is a real world. In our case, a company with which I worked previously in the past, I committed on setting up a company. This company trusted me, trusted in my company's ambitionage, and they gave me the opportunity to work with them and to use their reference as a client in our endeavor. So it's of paramount importance to make sure the very first client which is going to refer you to other incoming and potential clients. Any more questions, please? Can you hear me? Please stand up, stand up. I got 2 questions for you, and a question and a reflection. I'm a small and medium-sized company administrator system person. There is such a lack of cybersecurity that is brutal. Due to these shortages and lacks of confidence, so many ideas can be triggered by my colleagues that can be extrapolated to other companies having the same paradigm. My impression, my feeling is that even though there are companies that can help me in these beginnings, in the very end, my quality product, the idea of quality, is not in conformity with what the company should be ready to pay. The company does not understand it. So the idea of being entrepreneurialism, the only market I know is the Spanish one. They like much more paying for cheaper and patch thing that rather having a high quality product. So it scares me the fact that your high quality product very expensive or costly. These companies prefer cheaper product that can get by with. So your effort, another companies. Investments do not work, not because it's not a good idea, because the end client opts to being paying bad quality at the low cost that rather have being high quality at a slightly bigger amount of money. On one side, this is my point. What do you make of it? Now a personal question for Andres about Andres' company. I'm working and I would like to put up and promote ideas and boost ideas. Andreas, how did you start it? In your free time leisure, did you set up and get and promote these ideas? Telling me something about your beginnings and how were you able to generate all this push on your company? I will answer you back. Should I answer you back to your questions? Yes. The small and medium-sized companies is complicated to cope with from a cybersecurity viewpoint. It's such a big market. The truth is that cybersecurity is expensive, and to take on cybersecurity in a small and medium-sized company is a complex task. People dealing with rendering this kind of services have a big fight to try to convince a big company having what there is at stake about the necessity of investing in cybersecurity. Doing this with a small and medium-sized company is even much more difficult. When you are going to tackle to strike a big project with a big company, is difficult than doing it with a small and medium-sized company. So the small and medium-sized company giving services that put aside, there is a big market, a huge, humongous market, which get in the way of being a package at a low cost, perceptively, that can reach the small and medium-sized company. Many of you may have ideas on this line, and I urge you to put it into place. There are some companies over there which are offering security auditing services by paying only 50 euros per month. I don't consider that to be the right solution, but we need to look for alternatives in order to introduce cybersecurity into the small and medium-sized companies. Regarding how you can create your business project is a tough issue. In my case, I was working on both my brother Miguel and myself in our respective companies, and we're looking to setting out something considering the cloud global solutions, and we were spending a long time trying to developing this technology to be able to launch business product in the right time. On certain circumstances, we stopped the very first initial project, but due to certain circumstances, I had to give it a total twist to my professional life, and the opportunity with a client emerges about doing projects within. It's the right timing. I will stop doing clouding and cloud, and I will start doing something that I know how to do, since I'm experienced on that matter. And from then on, I will start constructing and building up on something different. A lot of previous planning, but in the very end, everything was accelerated and sped up, and the entrepreneurial project I started was completely different from I was previously came up with. So far, so good. To wrap up Andres' vision, only two brief notes. Certainly, regarding small and medium-sized companies, is such a tough issue. What we can see normally are companies that they don't have too much clients, customers. They go to the trade stock companies, willing to pay for pilot projects or whatsoever. Or we can also see companies that are starting in Spain. They started by selling things to small and medium-sized companies. Then they create a community product, they expand it, then they move to fans or investors, and with this traction in free traction per community, with this they give you the capital, the assets to go outside to sell it, because it's very difficult to sell things to the small and medium-sized companies. But this not applies to the rest of Europe and the United States. This proves you have traction, attractiveness. People are ready to buy your contract. People are like your product, but they don't have too much money, or they don't have too much money to pay. But outside Spain, the case is different. So that's why advocates about companies, Spanish companies moving abroad and selling abroad, because Spain's market is okay, but it's not the biggest market, to be honest. At all cases regarding small and medium-sized companies, beside considering the National Cybersecurity Institute trying to promote all these issues, you can, if it's messy and complicated, you mentioned the 35 companies for the Spain's market, straight companies. You need a lot of commercial force to do so. Doing this among thousands of small and medium-sized companies, I can only see this through packaging. You need to create packages as a service which is scalable, repeatable on a package. Like a portal format would be okay. You can stick to somebody who knows small and medium-sized companies, because these companies sell so many things by RPD of accounting. Every small and medium-sized company has this theme. So stick around those guys beating around the bushes in Spain, and this is a targetable market. And the third option I was using when I was dealing with a turnover invoice and billing company, you can rely on the small and medium-sized companies associations targeting their partners. And this can be your amplifier, your spokesman among them. And something you mentioned before, like it can be the catalyst for subsidies, because of course there are subsidies from the state. The small and medium companies has not to pay everything from scratch. You can benefit from these subsidies and public aid for it to cut down on costs. After this remaining another question, please. Otherwise, I would be asking myself. Getting back to the release status comments, there is a general frustration in the cybersecurity sector with smoke sellers such as the Gatson and other clowns on stage and on the newspapers. That is very frustrating, because they are only sold as the New Year's entrepreneur person. They get money, fans. This money is invested, but I don't know for what purposes, and we cope with that. Everybody here know they are shit. They're selling shit, vapor. Do you know that this counseling and who do you check out with? Liquende is a bastard case. If you remember Liquende talk in the National Cybersecurity in Spain, considering him real, he is. Please raise your hands, those who consider him to be an asshole. Who gives you this counseling and counsel? Who is investing in Liquende? It's a political issue to promote it in an original Spain issue. I put forward this example to ask you, where is this counseling coming from? Do you want to be counseled by these people and advised by them? No. Do you know any good idea-based company? I would be delighted to deal with meeting new people and investing on good projects of cybersecurity. When it comes down to investors, there are good investors, bad investors, companies, fans, people with names and family relatives. There's such a big range of investors and so many consters in Spain. I don't know them, but I won't be opinionated about that. But I know so many stories, angel stories, which are physical people who have a capacity of supporting the new entrepreneurs by giving them 530,000 euros on issues where the entrepreneur liquidated and terminated the company next day and got off with the whole money as a thief. You cannot do predicaments against all the investors and in the very same way. Should I be able to do it, conduct a survey in the polls about investing in a cybersecurity entrepreneur company? I would dare you to do so. And on all the cybersecurity events in Spain, we can give an automatic input, of course. You have it on the table. Do it, please. It's perfect. Brilliant.
That's an idea for business, Roman. But think about this. The industry of risk capital is devoted to this. If 90% of everything was fraud, we wouldn't have an industry in risk capital. There wouldn't be any business there for them. I mean, a success rate of 20, 12, 25%, whatever it is, for a hedge fund that invests in 10 or 15 startups, it means that they must be doing things well. You don't achieve a real yield unless you're doing things the right way. So it's a source of finance that really works in those countries that we have used as an example. It is growing a lot in Spain, Because that industry, the industry of risk capital, is an industry as a whole. Any more questions? There was something at the top and one down here. Sorry, I'll ask a question because not everyone is willing to ask one. Towards the corridor. Roman, it's me, Mr. Antonio Ramos. I wasn't going to say my name, but anyway. I've just completed a financing round with a number of investors, 5 with a few €100,000, and it's been a very enriching experience, I have to say. I'd like to ask you about what is happening around startups and entrepreneurs in so many trade shows. It makes me a little bit nervous. I have the feeling that I'm just like a cow that goes to those trade shows to see if the cattle owner decides to buy me as a cow. Anyway, do you think, from your point of view, is it interesting to start something up? If you make a mistake, is that mistake a useful lesson? If you go bankrupt the first time, surely the second time round you will detach your money from that of your wife. But anyway, I would say that I agree with what Rocío said. We need to persevere, we need to insist. I had an idea a few years ago and no one would buy it. No one. And finally, a year ago, I got one customer and then I got investors. I'm happy. No one has bought the company. I think I have something like 75% of the shares. These guys investing in my company are true experts, and I'm really happy. So a question about starting things up and the people in this world and all that. When someone decides to do something new, they first have an idea, and they usually think that that idea is amazing. Then that idea must become a project. If it does become a project, that will be one step in the right direction, but it doesn't matter how good that step is because you still don't have a company. And when you have the company, it might not well be a fully functional company. You might think that your idea is amazing, that everyone will freak out, but then you tell the market and nobody buys the story. So everyone will say, sorry, your idea may be fantastic, keep trying, but not like this time. So to cut a long story short, what do you think about the people that have become experts in startups, in training around this world? When Miguel and myself embarked upon this adventure, setting up the company, we attended a huge number of events. It's incredible the amount of money that moves around this world of entrepreneurs. We attended many talks, as I said, and we got lots of advice from different people. And the funny thing is that everyone giving advice had never set up their own company. They give you ideas which were so amazing that you felt convinced completely. And then, after 5 minutes, when your head was cold again, you realize that those ideas, most of them, were rubbish. Yeah, there's lots of smoke and mirrors everywhere. These events around entrepreneurs may be like going to a roller coaster. It's like a junkie that runs out of drug because you've got lots of ups and downs, and you need motivation, you need a push. You need to go to events like these every once in a while so that you get a shot of energy, feeling that you're going to conquer the world, if you like. But there's just a lot of smoke and mirrors everywhere. My experience, and I agree with Andres, and by the way, I was thinking about the pains we have when we go through failure. And I've been thinking about this. I think that over weekends, there's something I do, which is working with people that want to set up something. People that want to start with something new, and precisely from that perspective, you need to know whether your story you have lived yourself. Otherwise, it's vaporware we're talking about. And then when we talk about learning, when we talk about motivation, most of those things don't have a solid support behind the scenes. In those emotional roller coasters, we need a shot to our self-esteem, and that is a problem which is very commonplace in Spain. We always think that there's someone better than ourselves, that we don't deserve what we get. That's very generic in Spain. It happens to everyone. I've been working in many different places, taking a look at the different characteristics of different people from different countries. So you end up learning things about people from all over the world. You characterize people because that's a way to learn in life. So we have that belief which makes us suffer because we don't have enough self-esteem. Unless we push in the right direction because we find the energy to do so. And there's lots of people selling smoke and mirrors. When someone comes along and helps, most of the time they're not expecting anything in exchange for it. And then when you work with people that come close to you, that get to you and say, can you lend me a hand? Well, I'm just recalling when I was expecting people to lend me a hand. And the truth is I was lucky enough to get a hand. I just would like to continue along those lines. Lend a hand to others. If our view implies that everyone will lie to us and everyone will cheat on us, there's no way to success. But obviously you cannot be naive. You cannot be seduced by anything. And generalizing, overgeneralizing is just not good. If we want to start something up, we have to start up, as simple as that. Will we have obstacles? Of course. I liked Rocio's remark, especially around the fact that if you launch an idea, you need to have tested it beforehand. There are some products and services which might be for SMEs in our mind, and the subscription services are absolutely essential. So it's many customers, many small customers. Let me explain that. Many small ones. 30 seconds. I'm sorry about the other guy. He's waiting until the spotlight. We don't see him, so the difference between a business with many small ones and a business with one big one is huge. So we need to know what type of business we want for us.
Oh, por fin.
I'm sorry, I don't speak Spanish. Can I ask the question in English?
Hablo español, así que si me perdonáis, hago la pregunta en inglés. Gracias. Somos de Francia. Estamos montando una startup en el campo de la ciberseguridad. Y es interesante ver que en Francia, que en España, los retos son los mismos. Mi pregunta, de hecho, trata de la especificidad de la ciberseguridad. Porque no es lo mismo que vender en el campo minorista, por ejemplo. Y mi problema principal es el de la puesta en práctica de la normativa legal. No me quiero poner en plan político, ¿vale? Pero sí señalando cosas en demasiado detalle. Pero sí que quiero dar dos ejemplos. Uno, el primero, lo que está ocurriendo ahora mismo con el FBI y Apple, y cómo poner en práctica la normativa legal simplemente está suponiendo una amenaza a la protección de nuestra intimidad. Y la segunda es una cuestión que ocurre en Francia. Nosotros tenemos un congreso profesional que se llama el EFIC, que es Congreso Internacional de Ciberseguridad o algo así. Y lo que pasó es que el día antes de empezar este evento, una pequeña startup en Francia encontró bugs, errores en la página web. Y eso lo pusieron en conocimiento de los organizadores, hablaron de ello en Twitter, hablaron de la vulnerabilidad que habían detectado, y el día después sufrieron una redada en su sede, en la sede de la empresa. Es interesante hablar de cómo de cómo promover este emprendimiento, de cómo enfrentarse a los retos, pero cuando los retos son demasiado grandes, es decir, son retos que afectan a estados enteros, ¿cómo podemos ayudar como comunidad de la seguridad informática, para que nuestra voz se escuche y se tenga en cuenta a la hora de simplemente aplicar la normativa legal? Hablo de mi experiencia, yo no sé cómo es la situación en España, no sé si hay alguien que represente a la parte legal de este mundo en el panel, no lo sé. Podemos contestar. So who takes that? Who takes that? As a community, perhaps Andres can tell us something? You're part of the community. Well, I think Roman is better qualified. Come on, go ahead. Give us your views. I'll respond in Spanish, Hisham. Legislation, from my point of view, is a driver to start things up. Data protection is thief from the financial side. The thief has no translation. LOPD, the Data Protection Act, the European Directive on Data Protection, and the regulation for starting up new companies. There's money there, and there's things to do. So it's not a problem with legislation. And then the armed forces, and the police, and the civil guard, and the autonomous police corps, together with the CNC, the National Center for Cryptography, are supporting us in the right direction. I don't think it's a question of regulation. But there is a problem, as the members of the panel have pointed out, in the legal framework to set up a new company in Spain is very bureaucratic. Okay? It takes a long time to create a company. How about setting up an incubator for cybersecurity companies so that they can incubate new projects? So I would call upon them to see if they have something to say.
Creo que nos quedan 2 minutos.
I think we have 2 minutes left. Your headlines in 30 seconds. A summary of everything we've seen. I will stick to one. It is possible, it is complicated. This is not for everyone. Well, we're in Spain, we're in this event. Let me start at the beginning. In order to start something up, you need things. And one of those things is money. The other one is passion for what you do, being good at your work, knowing the market, and not just competitors, also customers, and having relationships with the members of the community. Here in Spain, we have all the elements. Perhaps for other industries that is not the case, but we have all the ingredients in that recipe to achieve success. I just recall that when Andres and myself were working together some time ago, and some others in the room, and people asked us about what we did during the day and not during the night, that was proof of the fact that we have so much passion and so much networking in place. We need to leverage that. Thank you. I would say that cybersecurity in Spain is an opportunity. There's a real opportunity there. This is something we can indeed leverage. We have a significant amount of capacity, and whatever we share is always a driver to keep moving in the right direction. And what Roman said, I agree with it. I think you have to prove what you say with facts. Some people say, some people do. So, okay, let's say things, but let's do them. Thank you, Juan. To finish off, I would say that all of you here, experts in cybersecurity or non-experts, but wishing to start up, go ahead. Talk to people, to Juan, to Fernando, to Andres, to myself. So share your ideas and push for them to move in the right direction. The quality of our engineering in Spain is incredible. You need to believe in yourselves. We have spectacular engineering in Spain. But you need to go out and talk out loud. Don't keep the ideas for yourself, because that way everything is impossible. Thank you, Rocío. Several messages from me. Some of them may be politically incorrect. The first one, if you're not happy with things, fight to change them. Take your guts and push in the right direction. Message number 2, the armed forces, the police forces, the government, invest in cybersecurity. Don't buy technology abroad. Invest in cybersecurity startups in Spain, people that can develop those things locally. And last but not least, I think it is extremely important to count on a really good team around you. I would like to congratulate the team in Atar Logic. They're giving it all out. Thank you very much, Andres. With that, we are done. So we have the ingredients. We can indeed leverage the value we have. We can talk out loud and clearly share your ideas. Go out. We have nothing to envy from engineers in the States or in the rest of Europe. And as Andres is saying, go and fight for that change and encourage government bodies to buy local technology. And congratulations to the TAR Logic team. Thank you.
Muchas gracias por la mesa redonda.
Thank you very much for that round table. We now have a break. Please do your best to come back. We have Andres giving the last talk. He's exhausted. And by the way, the other side of Kinepolis, of this building, is closed. You can go to the toilet, but I would recommend that you use the trees outside. But don't try to go to the other side of the building if you want to go outside, okay? Thanks.